On today's hot sheet, I'm discussing mortgage applications, the Redfin Home Price Index, and a Remax report on adjustments buyers are willing to make to achieve home ownership this year. Today is Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I'm Byron Lazine, and the hot sheet starts now. Welcome into today's edition of the Hot Sheet. If you are joining us live, let me know in the live chat which market you are tuning in from. Good morning from Austin. Hey, Austin. Megan from Scottsdale. What's going on there? I am in my Connecticut studio here today. And let's jump into it. We've got leading off for us a Remax survey into the mindset of buyers or would-be buyers here in 2024 as we collect all of the housing data on a 24-hour look back here on the hot sheet each and every single day. We also want to collect data on how consumers are feeling about this housing market this year, how they're feeling about what it would take for them to transact near or at 20-year lows or 20-plus year lows, total transactions, that is. Understanding how the consumer's thinking about this market is only going to help moving forward. So Remax did a study. I think it's worth looking at. They took responses from 1,000 plus U.S. based individuals. That's the threshold there, about 1,000 for a decent survey. And nearly 80% of consumers surveyed are planning to purchase a home in the next 12 months. Nearly 80% that are planning, to purchase a home in the next 12 months are adjusting their plans to do so in the current economic environment. So people who are planning to buy a home this year, according to Remax's analysis, according to Remax's survey, are factoring in some type of an adjustment, are willing to make an adjustment. They're understanding the economic situation, the current environment, and they're saying we are willing and understanding that we're going to have to adjust plans in some fashion. So that tells me right off the bat, those consumers need as much education as they can get. They need as much help as they can get. Because if they're willing to make an adjustment, well, I'm adjusting into what? What are my options? What's the best path forward? What do I not know about? A great buyer is going to ask this of their agent. What question am I not asking you right now when they sit down and do a buyer consult? Okay. If you're an agent, if you're an advisor, and you're sitting down with a buyer on their consult, a great thing to say at the end is, hey, here are the questions you didn't ask that typically buyers are asking me that are important to know. Here are the questions that you didn't raise that you should be educated on before moving forward, and item them all out. All right, let's get into the nuts and the bolts here of the survey and pick around on some of this information that I thought was relevant. Purchasing. So due to current market conditions, 43% of prospective home buyers have considered new and unique ways to achieve home ownership, including other property types and financing options. Okay, so 56% have considered a fixer-upper, something that's in need of remodeling or cosmetic or structural reasons. And so the hope is here that they have a plan, or their agent has a plan to help them move forward in that process. And it's not HGTV made it look easy, okay? Because you can get some real trouble there and regret it in 3 months. Purchasing a tiny home or a prefab home, 39%. I don't know if you know how I feel about tiny homes. I don't think it's very practical for 99% of the buyers who are out there who actually want to obtain a home. Borrowing with a down payment of less than 20%, 34% willing to do that. What are the financing options available? There's a lot of different products in different states. So understand what those products are in your state if you're a real estate agent. Is there a first-time home buyer program right now that is funded in your state. There are certain programs, CHAFA related, that enough of your buyers, enough of your database probably don't know about, probably need to know about. Purchasing a multifamily home. Okay, so 28% would consider multifamily. This is going to become more attractive based on the guidelines that switched in November. It can go as little as 5% down or 3.5% down, even on a multifamily 4-unit property. Okay, purchasing a condo attached home or a townhome, 28%. Purchasing a home with family or friends, 28%. I wouldn't want to see people purchasing a home with friends, but 1 out of 4 buyers, the potential buyers this year are thinking about, should I buy with family? Should I even buy with friends? Purchasing a home with all cash, as in without a loan, 21%. Okay. Uh, Borrowing money from a family or friends, 17%. There's options for them to do that. Making sure they're educated on it is obviously critical. Super commuting, buying a home with 2 or more hours from where you work so that you can afford it. 13% of buyers this year are thinking about that. Buying a home 2 hours from where they were. I think that's Bobby, right? Hey, that's Bobby from from BAM. He's looking 2 hours, then 2.5 hours away from where he works. If you don't need to be in the office every single day, may be an option for the buyers. Okay, out of the 56 respondents who said they would consider purchasing a fixer upper. Here's where, before I get into these numbers, here is where an agent can really show their value. If they've got a contractor list, if they've been through the process themselves, if they understand what it takes and rough costs, if they understand the timelines of these fixer uppers. An agent with that type of in-depth knowledge is invaluable to buyers who are looking at these type of properties. 73% of the 56% that are considering a fixer upper wanted the chance to purchase a home with a lower cost. Makes sense. But are they going to then go do the fixer upper and be over the cost of something move-in ready? You start moving walls around, pulling permits, extending the timeline before moving, and you add your carrying costs, there's a high chance that you will be over another property that would just be move-in ready. It's nice to have everything nice and fresh and clean, but it's very expensive to do some of these renovations. So are we talking cosmetic, swapping out carpets, doing some paint, doing some things that you as a homeowner can do on the weekend? Or are we talking about renovation? Okay, because fixer upper can fit in either category. It can fit in the renovation rehab category, and it can also fit in the cosmetic, making it clean. I think about one of the things I did with my recent place in Florida that I own in Naples is I just went in there and just cleaned the place up. I got the tile cleaners to come in and clean the tile grout and paint the grout. That made a world of difference. That's something that is cosmetic. It made the floors look brand new. When somebody else might have went in there and be like, this needs a lot more work. For example, 70% would purchase it as it allows them to start with a clean slate. So thinking fixer upper more for that rehab. That's a big number, 70%. If that's the way they're thinking, clean slate. 56% were willing to purchase to offer them more flexibility with the location. So trying to get closer to where they want to be, thinking fixer upper. 28% of them are willing to pay $30,000 to $50,000 for repair and renovations, with only 10% saying they'd spend upward of $90,000. The majority said under $70,000, with 23% saying 50 to 70,000, 25 would spend 10 to 30,000. If you're trying to spend 30 to 50,000, you're not talking full reno, you're not talking full rehab at that point, right? So you're like maybe a really nice cosmetic job, or just getting out of the cosmetic category, and maybe you're including you include new appliances and cosmetics, you're over $30,000 in a lot of cases, depending on the appliances you pick. 90% of respondents willing to purchase a fixer upper would also consider purchasing a foreclosed home. I would consider that too. There just really aren't any foreclosed homes available. Anybody in the chat seeing? I mean, we know the foreclosed numbers nationally are extremely low. Anybody in the chat seeing any sign of foreclosures popping up right now in your market? I'm going to skip tiny and prefabricated home because it's more of just a, I don't know. It's more of just a dream for people. There's not an abundance of tiny homes. There's not a real you know, you hear, I want to buy a piece of land, put a tiny home. Okay, well, it's going to cost you as much as like building a house half the time. Some of these tiny homes, and so I don't really consider that viable for most buyers. Down payment with less than 20%, 76% of the folks who, of the 34% who said that they would like to do that, said it's what they can comfortably afford. So they can't afford more than 20%. It's 10%. A lot of options for those buyers. 38% plan to purchase with a loan type that does not require 20% down. 32% said their loan type does not require more than 3%. Hey, if you got a bunch of people in your database right now that have been thinking about buying, they just haven't made the move, a good email or text message out to them would be, hey, I'm seeing some products come across my desk. At what percent down would you be a buyer in this market? At what percent down, 3.5, 5, 10, or 20%, would you be a buyer in this market? That might get some responses to see where some people are at that haven't set up a showing in a while, that haven't responded to your drip campaigns. Hey, I've got some loan products that I'm reviewing that work in our state, in our area. At what percent, 0, 3.5, 5, 10, 20% down, would you be a realistic buyer in 2024? Okay, a very direct question, backed by value, backed by information. It's going to help people give you a response because you're asking something direct other than I'm checking in, see how you're doing. I don't want to tell you how I'm doing, right? A very direct question on their particular situation is going to be helpful. Multifamily home, among the 29% of folks who indicated that they would purchase multifamily, 61% of those, they want to own an investment property at some point. So maybe they're going to live in it for a little bit, but their long-term goals, I want to own investment. 50% are willing to do so to split the mortgage payment. So they're willing to look at multi if they can get that mortgage payment down with where interest rates are today. 47% want to live in the same property as family and friends without having to share living space. This one's like seemingly coming back a little bit. The friends, the family, living space. Okay. I guess we're way far away from the COVID days now. People want to live back together. Out of the 68%, or out of the 28% rather, who indicated they'd look at a condo, an attached home, or a townhome, 57% of those want lower maintenance costs. Okay. And you got to be careful in some of those condos and townhomes. Speaking of that same property in Naples, our quarterly HOAs went from, what percent would this be? I don't know, 1,600 a quarter, 2,000 a quarter. So that, $400 a quarter, 800 bucks a year. The stuff can go up pretty quickly. 33% said these property types are located in the better areas than options, and noted, and a 30% noted a lack of other housing options in the area. 30% prefer this property type over others. 21% reported that they would purchase for the benefit of having a homeowners association. That can be a benefit and a curse, those HOAs. All right. There's more data on that. We'll drop that in a link into BAMX, of course. The show notes breaks it down beautifully. As always, all of our BAMX members get access to the show notes each and every single day from the hot sheet, just like the segment that I went over. It also tells you how many downloads are available in BAMX, as well as a direct link to the original source. Get the most out of your content that you're consuming with BAM by joining BAMX. Use code HOT to get 10% off of BAMX. Let's move into Redfin's Home Price Index. Yesterday, we looked at Lance Lambert's analysis of the Zillow Home Price Index. We looked at was it 800? I believe it was 800. We looked at 800 metro and micro housing markets that Lance put together from the Zillow Home Value Index. Well, now we've got the Redfin one to compare to it. Okay, Redfin just released Home Price Index, and they claim that prices rose 0.4% in December, which would be the smallest increase in 6 months. Okay, so here's the chart here. U.S. home prices climbing 0.4% over month in December, the smallest increase since June. December represented the third straight month of slowing price gain. Year-over-year basis prices, according to Redfin, year-over-year prices now up 6.6%. Okay, so you can see this going back to 2012, national prices, up and to the right. Here's your month over month. In any high market, you still see this volatility of the seasonality of our market, of course. But I just want to do a quick comparison here. So Zillow's got 6.6% year over year and 0.4% month over month in December. Remember, Zillow had month over month at negative 0.6%. So we've got a full point difference here. And this is where it's important. This is why they always say Case-Shiller is the gold standard. We got a full point difference between Redfin and Zillow. Okay. And then you've got year over year, you've got Zillow at 3.2% and Redfin at 6.6%. So big differences there. If we look at some of the metros here, there's huge differences. Like Austin, year over year change according to Redfin, negative 4.8%. Now I know Redfin, sometimes their metros, if you look on their website, their metros can be really wide, really, encompassing things that maybe locals wouldn't even consider Austin. Because if we look at Austin here on Zillow, which is a tighter, metro and micro area housing market, it's a tighter net than the net that Redfin is casting. Year over year prices on Zillow's house index for Austin would be negative 7.2% compared to negative 4.8%. So if you can go back and look at yesterday's Zillow Home Price Index, Zillow, by the way, how do I choose Zillow or Red? I don't know. Zillow has significantly more traffic than Redfin. Take that for what it's worth. Again, I think you got to look at Case-Shiller Home Price Index to get a really good analysis and understand that Redfin's metros are going to be different than Zillow's, which is going to skew those numbers. It's why, if you're selling in somewhere like Austin or wherever, it's why you got to know what's generally happening in the market, generally what's happening nationally, and then be able to pocket it down into those neighborhoods, into those communities, because they're going to react differently month over month, year over year than the next community. They're not all going to be the same. This is a very localized business, and being able to break it down from macro all the way down to the smallest details in the micro in your market is what will separate you from the other agents and consultants, obviously, in your market. So there you go. Anything else on the Redfin that stuck out to me? They talk about the high mortgage rates and housing supply contributing to this slowdown in price. They've got the Austin 1.1% month over month decrease. Oakland, Sacramento, Miami, and Nashville were where prices dropped the fastest month over month, according to Redfin. Metros with the biggest month over month increases: Chicago, San Jose, Pittsburgh, Virginia Beach, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Chicago 2.6% month over month. That'll all be linked up for everybody in BAMX if you want to grab the Redfin data. All right, let's take a look at what I am most interested in, and that is what's going on with mortgage application data. All right, so we said as we get into this second half of January, it's going to be critical for us to analyze, is the demand continuing to increase? Of course, the first couple weeks of January, mortgage demand goes up from the last couple weeks in December when you go week over week, because nothing's happening in the last couple weeks of December. But does this continue to increase week over week into the spring market? It's going to give us a real indication on demand going forward. Mortgage applications increased 3.7% from 1 week earlier, according to Mortgage Banker Association. Okay, 3.7% is the total overall number, and the results do include an adjustment to account for last Monday's MLK holiday. All right, the mortgage loan application volume did the 3.7 increase, but on an unadjusted basis, The index decreased 4% with the previous week. Okay. The holiday was adjusted um, to basically make up for that. The refinances went down 16% from the previous week and 8% lower than the same week 1 year ago. So this number is actually higher. The 3.7 sounds low, but it's being pulled down by the refis. We don't really care about the refis. It was interesting that they were up to start the year anyways. Now that the rates ticked up, they go lower, makes sense. What we really care about is the seasonally adjusted purchase index, and that increased 8% from 1 week earlier. That's a good, healthy number. An 8% tick up in demand in adjusted purchase applications for purchase, taking the refis out of it. Okay, if you go unadjusted purchase index, that even went up 3% compared with the previous week. But it was 18% lower than the same week 1 year ago. Mortgage Banker Association President Joel Kahn says that mortgage rates increased slightly, but there continues to be this upward trend in purchase activity. Great news for demand going into the spring market. Conventional and FHA purchase applications drove most of the increase as last week, as some buyers moved to act early this season. Let me know in the comments here. Are you seeing that? Are buyers looking to act early in this spring market? Okay, that's the update there. The headline that you'll see and consumers will see on CNBC this morning: home buyer demand pushes mortgage applications higher, even as interest rates inch up. That's the 8%. That's the number that you really focus in on that I mentioned there. Of course, lower than last year, but we're looking for week over week improvement going into this spring to give us an indication of, how active this spring market will be. Okay, here's your Mortgage Banker Association purchase application index. Obviously, off of the pace we were to begin the year last year, and certainly off the pace of the last number of years, but gradually going in the right direction. We want to see that the bottom is behind us, and hopefully that is an indicator of that. 4.096 right now on the 10-year Treasury, so down a tick after being up yesterday and popping the 30-year back to 6.92, which is where we ended on Friday. Hopefully that'll go down a little bit today. That is your hot sheet here for the day. We've got a whole bunch of stuff coming up here at BAM, as I've mentioned throughout the week. We've got a big interview with Sirhan next week. That's going to be released on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed for that. He's also keynoting the BAM Pro Bowl, which will be February the 7th. Make sure you grab your seat. Those are free seats. We have an all-star lineup for that. So grab your seat for the BAM Pro Bowl. Also, go over to nowbam.com and check out the real estate conferences you don't want to miss. We've got all our BAM events, so you can kind of make a note in your calendar of the events coming up this year for BAM, as well as a full list of all industry events. You definitely want to grab that article and make sure you make notes in your calendar of when and where you want to be. I hope you're with me on the virtual event and many others on February the 7th. Free link down below. And till tomorrow, hope everybody has a great day. Toodaloo.